My husband cheated and left me when I was mourning my parents' passing. Now he is running back to me after finding out I'm inheriting $7 million. I'm 27 and my life completely fell apart 4 months ago. My husband and I had been trying for a baby for almost a year. We'd been married for 2 years, together for 5 total, and starting a family just felt right. But month after month, nothing happened. The fertility clinic results came back on a Thursday. Both of us had issues. The doctor said IVF was possible, but expensive and not guaranteed. I remember sitting in that parking lot afterward just staring at the steering wheel. I'd wanted to be a mom since I was a kid myself. My husband barely spoke to me for 2 weeks after that. He'd come home from work, eat dinner in silence, then go straight to his office. I thought he just needed time to process, so I gave him space. That was my first mistake. On week 3, he came home early. I was sitting on our couch still in my pajamas at 3 p.m. because I'd been too depressed to get dressed. He sat down next to me and said, "I need to tell you something." He'd reconnected with his high school friend at some conference. They'd grabbed lunch, then coffee the next day. Then she stayed in town an extra week and they started sleeping together. It had been going on for 18 days. He'd counted. I just sat there. I couldn't even scream at him. I started crying so hard I couldn't breathe. He didn't hug me, didn't apologize, just sat there watching me like I was on TV or something. After an hour of me sobbing, he stood up and said, "I'm staying at my parents' tonight. I need space from all this." Then I noticed his gym bag by the door. He'd packed before even telling me. He walked out while I was still crying on the couch. I didn't leave that couch for 5 days. Friends knocked on my door. I yelled through it that I was fine and they left. My boss called 11 times. I ignored everyone. Then my cousin showed up on day 13. I told him to leave, but he wouldn't go. He started yelling through the door that my dad had a heart attack that morning. He was gone. I hadn't checked my phone in almost 2 weeks. I'd missed 47 calls from my family. I booked a flight home that night, still wearing the same sweatpants I'd had on since my husband left. The funeral was packed. My dad was a defense attorney, one of the best in our town of 40,000 people. Over 300 people came. I stood next to my mom shaking hands with strangers for 6 hours. She held my hand the entire time and neither of us cried. We were too shocked. I stayed at her house after the funeral. We barely talked. Just sat in the living room watching HGTV and eating casseroles people had dropped off. On the third night, I fell asleep on her couch around 11 p.m. I woke up at 7 a.m. and she was still in her chair. I thought she'd fallen asleep watching TV. I walked over to wake her up and her skin was cold. The coroner said natural causes, heart failure in her sleep. But I knew the truth. She died of a broken heart. You can't lose your husband of 34 years and just keep going. Her body gave up. We had her funeral 4 days later. Smaller this time, maybe 80 people. I was a robot going through the motions. I flew back to my apartment the next day and didn't leave for 6 weeks. I lost my job after week 2 for no call, no show. I didn't care. I had enough savings for rent and utilities. I ate cereal for dinner. I didn't shower for 11 days at one point. My hair became so matted that when I finally tried to brush it, my plastic hairbrush snapped in half. That's when I knew I'd hit rock bottom. Last Tuesday, my dad's attorney called. He'd been trying to reach me for 3 weeks. Turns out my dad had been quietly investing in tech startups since 1997. He never told anyone, not even my mom, just kept putting money away. Amazon, Google, some random companies that got acquired. The estate was worth $7.2 million. I was the only heir. I didn't tell a soul. Not my friends, not my cousin, nobody. I was still trying to process it when my husband showed up at my door yesterday at 2 p.m. on a Saturday with grocery store roses and that stupid smile he used to give me. I heard about your parents and the inheritance. Your cousin mentioned it. He worked with my cousin's wife apparently. I've had time to think and I made a huge mistake leaving you. We can fix this. We can do IVF now. We can have everything we wanted. I looked at him standing there. This man who packed his bags before confessing his affair, who sat and watched me cry for an hour without touching me, who didn't come to either funeral, who disappeared for 4 months while I lost everything. And now he was back because of money. I stared at him for a full 30 seconds. Then I said, "The only mistake here was me begging you to stay that night." I shut the door in his face. He knocked for